Okay, so we're going to sort of move into the next section. Just got a kind of chat bit from Sarah about the links for the films. So in the sort of email we sent out, there was a few links to the Suzanne Lacey project and others, but we'll get some anything else that's come up from today sent out to you as well and added whilst you're doing this next bit. So similar to last time, it would be nice to kind of put you into these rooms. I think we're going to try a sort of slightly different version of it this time, where you maybe just stay in one group for a bit longer. So we're going to kind of put you into random groups of, I guess if we've got about 30 participants, maybe do 4 groups of it'll probably be about 8 people. And you've got 30 minutes. I'll put this in the chat as well if it's useful. But really just have a discussion between yourselves about embedded practice and what we might mean by it. So I'd ask you to sort of consider in the group and talk through, what does embedded practice mean to you? What do you understand by it? And within that, you could also sort of think about, well, you know, what would make it work, or what makes it succeed? What are the kind of ingredients that are necessary for an embedded practice to either take hold or work? What barriers or challenges might that face? I think is another kind of way of thinking or having the conversation about it. And also, how do you sort of see yourself in relation to this kind of field of embedded practice? So let me just kind of see if I can pull that up at the end. How would you sort of relate to that? And what would you like to, how would you like to sort of contribute to its development? So really it's, 30 minutes in groups of 8 to sort of just discuss amongst yourselves about embedded practice. What we're going to do after that is, if you can, within the kind of beginning of these breakout rooms, nominate yourself or decide amongst yourselves who might be a representative or scribe of that group, to bring some of the kind of conversations back to the room, and then Paul will sort of facilitate a conversation about that. So we're not asking for kind of like formal presentations back about everything that you've talked, but we'll find a way of kind of bringing out some of those ideas using a sort of, well, in the Zoom space here, but using some of these talkie-okey methods. So let me just see if we can get the breakout rooms working. Is everyone sort of clear about that? Do you want to just sort of, it wasn't just frozen for all the time that I was going through that? Good, okay, some nods. Okay, so we'll put you into, I would say, if we've got 28 participants, we can make that 4 groups of 7. And as I say, so you've got half an hour to sort of discuss this amongst yourselves. Do sort of, nominate, you might as well do it straight away, the person that might sort of try and keep an eye or act as a scribe or an observer to get a sense of what that conversation is, and can sort of bring it back to us, and then we'll have a kind of session at the end to go through that. So enjoy your 30 minutes chatting to each other, and you'll get a little sort of notice countdown before you come back into the main room as well. And I think Paul and Ralph will probably join one of the groups as well, just to, or maybe you'll drop in on kind of some of the others as you go around, like an observer. Okay, enjoy. Okay, so everyone should be back in there in the main room now. I hope the kind of breakout rooms were an interesting experience for you, and you got to have some good conversations. So I'm really just going to sort of pass on to Paul to facilitate the next kind of like 15 minutes. So for those people that were kind of, what should we say, sort of nominated as the spokesperson for their group, just because we've got quite a lot of, you know how Zoom works, there's too many people for us to all see on one screen. You could unmute your kind of microphone as long as you kind of, it's not going to go too haywire. And then I'll pass on to Paul to kind of like maybe kind of, try and get a conversation going between a lot of you that sort of, bring together some of the things that you've discussed. You ready for that?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah. It's not quite a full-on talkie experience, but we'll see. I mean, I guess, I mean, I don't know if people know how to use the raise a hand function as well. That kind of helps if somebody wants to kind of throw something in. But has anybody from one of the groups want to kick us off with what you've been talking about? What kind of things have you explored around the idea of embedded, or anything else that's come up within the from the presentation, or what you've been talking about? You can give me a wave of hand as well if need be.
I can speak. Can you hear me?
Yeah, is it Gualea? Yeah.
Okay.
Julia?
Hi.
Julia.
This is Julia. Nice
Yeah.
to meet you.
Julia. So what have you been talking about in your group?
So basically, we get into the deep of the first question, but I think that we tackle a bit also the other one. And in particular, by asking what an embedded practice is, we focus on the fact that is a project that is not imposed over the public or the audience, but should be like done through our research, and it should be really settled in, of course, in the place. And we were wondering about after that the work is over, the main events, if it's an event or the project in general, what can be left behind, and how the community that has been created, that sometimes most of the time is a temporal community, can last or have its own also life, let's say. So departing from that, we thought about the notion of feedback, which is a really problematic one, because sometimes you don't see you're not able to see the result in the immediate feedback. Like, for example, if a performance happened, then we speak about the performance. It's not necessary like that I'm aware about what happened to me in that moment, but sometimes you need the elaboration, but and even more in the more complex project where there's a lot of economical and political factor involved, maybe. And also regarding the feedback, we were saying that is also problematic, because sometimes it's really hard to be sincere with each other, so really know what the other people thinks behind what they tell you. I mean, they can tell you, oh, that's successful, it's wonderful, and then maybe they don't really think this. So, and also the feedback might influence all like the grant process, which also part of the question about what barrier do the work entails. That sometimes we need, when you do an embedded practice and you sustain it, for example, by the Art English Council and so on, you really need to have a good feedback to keep going. So that might be also problematic in terms of parameter, like which are the kind of parameter that application ask us for and to request to the public or audience, and what and how these really not material and not countable qualities of the work can be transformed into something that is a data, like the data. Sorry.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's it. Okay. If someone wants to add something, that's what I remember.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of want to respond as well. It's not the ideal. In Tokyo, it's supposed to be completely neutral, and I can't be neutral, can I, on this, because I've set it. Yeah. But thanks, Julia. I think some really good points. Does anybody want to add to that? Anybody else want to contribute from their group?
If you want, hello. Yeah. I was there inside the second group, and so we started talking about the meaning of embed, starting from a documentary. And so from that point, we started to understand how inside a video work and documentary work, the methodology of embed is like already inside the process, and the connection with the people, it's sometimes it's explicit, and you don't need to, let's say, consider it before. and you do, while you're doing, you discover it. And this is also the part of the beauty in doing a work like this, because there is a big space for the like to give, to have like new possibilities and new discoveries that you didn't prevent or didn't plan. And then from this point, we understand the importance of being inside a system and being aware of your practice and the language. So how your language has to be connected and has to be aware of the language of the people or on the system in which you work in. And so yes, this we also trying to understand the embed context methodology through the teaching. So how also teaching and art is became embedded with a society, with a group, and also with language. Was a key word was the language system and the communication to create, of course, like a stronger connection with the people you're working with. And then from this, we went to the idea of creating a relation. And there was this also very nice idea of an embed methodology that it can be seen also as a friendship. So something that is not only, let's say, practice or a work with people, but is a relation that is not just in a specific time, and is not ending. It's just keeping on going also after the project is ended. And also from here, there was the concept of that is kind of close with the idea of the feedback, like how can we have a return of what we did, and together with the other person inside another context. So how you work with the return on this, and so also how an embedded methodology can be seen as a growth moment for like building something in the society. So this was kind of the key moment of our group discussion.
Great, fantastic. Thanks, Frederica. Wonderful. So I guess maybe if we go to group, was it group 3? We've got a representative from group 3, is it? Or group 4?
So you might be group 4.
Were we group 4?
We were group 1, but it's a different group.
That's fine. We can go to the beginning. Group 1. Thanks.
Okay. Well, we were sort of like talking about everyone. It was again a bit like last time, a little bit like introductory. So people were sort of talking about their practice and then trying to go from there towards the questions. But really, the things that seemed to come up were about struggling with the idea of being nomadic and how do you embed, and two curators in the group both having that similar question of what is it to take things out of their natural environment and put them in a gallery or move them around a place, and how do you create embeddedness. And actually one question came out of that was, is it just time to leave the institution? So maybe we walk away if we're not getting the embeddedness that we're looking for. Yeah, a lot of people in our group finding it quite a difficult question to grapple with. What have we got else? Fragmentation was raised as also a kind of common theme a little bit. Again, that's a bit like, this idea of separating things out and placing them in specific contexts and then moving them around. And then two artists in our group are working with fragmentation, archiving, archives as a response to a place or a community, and then Adita working in working inside an academic scientific academic location, seeking to legitimize arts practice as a research method in that academic place. So she's kind of examining her own place in a very niche and focused way. That's like super embedded to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And yes, and also Adita was looking at fires in different places around the world. So there's like that idea of fragmentation, but bringing it together with a common theme that you can then apply globally in different places, and kind of stitching it together that way, finding something that links across time and place. And the idea, how do we see how arts and community overlap, and when is it a community and when is it an art project? How do you see the boundaries between those, if there are any? We don't know. For me, that's interesting as well, because I'm working right in my street, and that's the idea for me, is about how do I just stay at home and generate an art world around myself without traveling at all. So you know, that those are some of the things. It feels fragmented too, so maybe some of the others in the group have something to add. I'm not sure. I was writing notes as well as trying to kind of feed that back. So
no, it's great, Sarah, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Maybe just that common things will be to question also the outcome, the final outcome, that it can be related to a larger group, or even just the institutional outcomes and words. So also maybe the outcome, because also the work that you were mentioning about the street, it's somehow an outcome that can be part of your research. So maybe something that will fit artists and creators in our group will be this questioning what to do then, you know?
I think that global aspect is interesting, because I know, you know, that I wasn't convinced this idea that the work that we did with Suzanne Lacey that would then go on to this kind of other stage would make sense. You know, this kind of little town in the middle of, you know, Lancashire in a mill. You know, how would that make sense in Sydney? But we had some kind of really interesting anecdotal feedback from people that had seen it over there and how they had connected to an artwork, and it's just, you know, just reminded that if it's done well, then there is that connection beyond, really, and that, you know, it can work in that way as well, which was a bit of a learning curve for me as well. So that kind of, how something happening small somewhere can have this connection beyond, really. I'm just reading because for me, I do feel I sit in the middle of these two worlds. Like I said, I did train as an artist, but, you know, developed more as a community development worker and even a youth worker. So I often feel like I sit in these two worlds a little bit. And I've just found this book that I don't know if anybody has heard of it, but I think it's from a project in Australia, but it's called The Relationship is the Project. And it talks much more about terminology like community engaged practice and where these kind of things overlap a lot more. And it talks about where the power is and where, like in our little group, we were talking about who owns the idea and where it moves around as well, in terms of when you're working within a particular place. And it's quite an interesting book, is that.
Well, let's put it in there. Yeah, we'll put it on the list of resources.
I'll share it, yeah. Is anybody, we've just got another couple of minutes. Yeah. Is anybody else want to add anything that their representative didn't add? Do you want to add anything else or something new to the mix? Yeah.
Can I use oh, okay.
Put Tiara on.
Yeah, it's all right. Tiara, yeah. And then who was it?
Okay, I don't know what group number I was in, but it was myself, Alina, Leah, Lauren, Henry, and Jade. But one of the things that, well, my practice is movement-based, and it's all happening digital. So one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, and we spent some time thinking through in our group, is the relationship between embedded and embodied. Or embodiment, right? And so embodied, thinking about it in terms of like a tangible, visible kind of way to see feeling or an idea or the body in general, and how movement is a part of the everyday or for most folks, and how embedded is also quite integrative or participatory. And I think we were seeing the lines of participation in both of those things. And so I just wanted to bring that to the forefront and wondering what other folks are thinking about embodiment when it comes to embedded. The other thing that we were talking about in terms of how do we want to contribute is we want it to be, all of us, I think, want it to be participatory, community-oriented, something along the lines of collective. And then co-production was really important. How do we be co-producers with other artists, with communities? And I know for myself, like my work is building upon other movement people, other people who facilitate embodiment when it comes to like the sensual body. And so, let's see. I really like this idea of the embedded is an opportunity to teach and learn. And I think that might have been a thread between what we were talking about. So we kind of set them side by side. So embedded being participatory, collective, organic, something about it having like a practical aspect to it as well. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. We arrived at like the embedded embodied, and we arrived at where do you want to see yourself or how you want to contribute.
Great. Yeah, thanks very much. It's great. Does anybody want to comment on that or anything else? Was there somebody else that wanted to speak at the same time? No?
Yeah, it was me, just because I was I really liked the notion of the concept of fragmentation that the previous group brought up, and I think that is really central to understanding our contemporary life, in terms that also this fact that we are always like in somehow moving around as an impact on people that does embedded practice, or also for the sustainability of embedded practice. And embedded practice should create some changes in the social net, let's say, but because we always move and we're for working reason, or I don't know, I think, for example, in the mechanism of biennial and so on, it's really hard to actuate this changing. And I was thinking about this sense like fragmentation, but also on the contrary, like mobility as a kind of biopower mechanism, which really doesn't allow for changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, biopolitical mechanism. That's it.
Cool. Okay, let's kind of, we'll do a little swap in the seats again. But it's nice that first of us could say goodbye, couldn't we? And then it's not just me. So, okay, I mean, it's really good actually to hear a bit more from the cohort as a whole and the other residents. And I hope you sort of find this mixture on the Saturdays of a kind of presentation and then some sort of group discussion afterwards useful or fruitful. So maybe we'll look at doing that again. Just as a little kind of bonus, residency bonus, next Saturday we didn't have a talk planned, but we've been able to get Stealth, who are a duo, Mark and Anna, who work between Rotterdam and Serbia, to sort of talk about really interesting, their practice, which sort of crosses a lot of different disciplines from architecture and design to activism. But they're especially at the moment working on setting up a housing cooperative, but also like an energy cooperative, so like a basic like off-grid energy system. And yeah, we'll do that at the same time next Saturday, 2 till 4:30. And I think if we're happy with this format and finding it useful, where it's kind of like, yeah, you've got a bit of presentation, Q&A, and then some time to discuss, this is all something we can work on. The other thing that I was going to try and organise for this week, we've had a slight, intervention today with the weather crisis here, is to give you, if you wanted to continue to have a conversation with Paul and Ralph, they're going to be here in Cittadellarte until Wednesday, and we'll try and kind of create like almost a one-to-one tutorial slot. So if there's just kind of like, if you've got a couple of hours free, and if there's anyone that wanted to kind of follow up and maybe just have a bit more of a conversation with them, I'll send that out by email. and that way, and we'll just have to do it on a first come first served kind of basis. But just to give you the residents that aren't here the opportunity to connect in the same way that the 3 residents that we have here are doing. Maybe, you know, Paul can do it over lunch or something. And also, yeah, remember the Padlet. Keep us updated on your projects. I've got the feeling that people have basically got a much better idea of how these things are working, and after the kind of plenary seminar, and also hopefully for today, there's kind of people are kind of moving on with what they're doing. But remember that space is our way of kind of like understanding what each other's up to and sharing. And the more you do that on there, then obviously, you know, these Zoom meetings and these conversations could be the things that you organise. You don't have to wait for me or Juan or Clara to kind of provide that time. And I think for, depending on where you are in the world, it would be great, you know, to see some sort of more localized groups or things that are at least in the same time zone come together. So yeah, look out for an email. This has all been recorded today, including some of the breakout rooms. So I'll try and put it into the archive and resources section on the Padlet again. And I will be in touch sort of during the week. We've got a new bunch of residents arriving tomorrow. And again, you should be able to sort of see what the groups have been up to here for the last couple of weeks. So hopefully you're getting a better sense of the connection between, as we say, this fairly fragmented kind of world that we're in at the moment. But yeah, big thank you to Ralph and to Paul. Yes, Ralph's off camera. He's making, go on, we can start. There it is. Say goodbye to everyone, Ralph. Very good. Yeah. And cheers very much, Paul, for coming over. I think it's been a really useful contribution. Thanks very much to our residents that are here and kind of like helping out with some of the tech stuff as well, becoming kind of like default techies for the day. Yeah, we'll be in touch shortly. Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a good rest of your weekend. Ciao. Ciao.